Today, we're digging into two really radical architectural concepts. And these aren't just about housing people or, well, locking them up. They force us to completely rethink our relationship with our environment, with our society, and honestly, with ourselves. So let's unpack what that new relationship could actually look like.
And I mean, what if it could be truly alive? Not just sticking some plants on the wall or having a smart thermostat. I'm talking about a building that's an active metabolic partner in your life. It's a wild thought, right? What does that even mean? You see, the idea here goes so far beyond our usual idea of sustainability. We're talking about a building that doesn't just try to do less harm. We're talking about one that actively participates in a closed-loop system, a symbiotic relationship with the person inside. It's a total shift in how we think about things. In this quote, man, it just nails the philosophy behind all of this. It's saying that real strength, real security, doesn't come from building walls and isolating yourself. It comes from deep, interconnected, mutually beneficial relationships. Okay, so before we can really get these buildings, we have to wrap our heads around the core principle they're built on. It's a simple but incredibly powerful idea that, according to this framework, pretty much governs everything, from a single cell all the way up to the global economy.
So on one side, you've got circulation. The easiest way to think about it is like breathing, right? It's an in and out exchange where everything is returned. It creates balance, and it allows things to last. But on the other side, you've got extraction. And that's just a one-way street. It's all about taking without ever giving back. And that creates debt and eventually a whole lot of instability.
An extractive system by its very nature just can't last. It doesn't matter if you're talking about mining resources from the earth or taking value out of a community without putting anything back in. The end result is always the same. You run out of things to take, and the whole system collapses. It's literally a system that eats its own foundation.
Circulation, on the other hand, that's the pattern of life itself. It's all about closing loops. A forest is the perfect example, right? The waste from one creature is food for another. Absolutely nothing is lost. This is the blueprint for long-term survival, for real resilience. And once you get this idea, you start to see these extractive patterns everywhere. Seriously. Think about it. Centralized systems with a single point of failure. Economies that demand endless growth on a planet with limited resources. Even AI models that build up errors because they don't have a real feedback loop with the world.
So the big question is, how do you actually build a system that circulates? How do you build a place to live that follows these rules? Well, that brings us to our first incredible design, the Symbiodome. It's a house that's designed not as a machine or a box, but as a living organism.
Just look at this thing. What's so amazing is that the design itself immediately tells you its purpose. This isn't just a shelter, it's an active participant in the cycles of life. It is designed from the ground up to breathe, to process, and to circulate resources, just like any other living thing. So how does it actually work? Well, it's all built around these four crucial metabolic loops. Water, rainwater gets collected, used, and recycled over and over. Waste? Human waste isn't something to be thrown away. It becomes biogas for cooking and compost for the garden. That compost then feeds a rooftop garden that, you guessed it, provides your food. And energy is all generated and stored right there. Every single output becomes an input. Nothing is wasted. And this is the most profound part. You stop being just a consumer, taking from your home and its utilities. Instead, you become a partner. The house supports your life, your metabolism, and your metabolism, in turn, supports the house's systems. It becomes a truly symbiotic relationship. Okay, that's a home. That's amazing. But what happens if we take this same principle of circulation and apply it to one of society's most broken, most extractive systems? What about a prison?
And this is the Healing Tower. The name tells you everything, doesn't it? The purpose isn't punishment or warehousing people or just taking years of their life. It's healing and reintegration. Even the very shape of it, that upward spiral, suggests a journey, a process, not just a dead end.
All right, I know what you're probably thinking, because I thought it too. Total isolation from other people and walls made of transparent glass? That sounds incredibly harsh, maybe even cruel. But just hang on, because there is a very specific metabolic logic at play here. So first, let's talk about the isolation. You have to think of it like a quarantine for behavior. You know how in traditional prisons, criminal networks and antisocial habits often get stronger, they get reinforced? This design is meant to break that cycle. It stops that social disease from spreading and gives a person the space for their own individual patterns to actually change. And the glass walls? Okay, this is critical. It is not about public shaming. The whole function is to restore a broken feedback loop. The argument is that the ability to hide allows us to sever the connection between our actions and their consequences. Transparency forces that circuit to close. It makes your behavior visible, creating direct feedback, which is the absolute precondition for any real change.
So when you put the two models side by side, the contrast is just stark. The prison model we have now is extractive. It takes years from a person's life, it reinforces bad behavior, and it leads to huge rates of people reoffending. The healing tower, though, is designed to be circulatory. Its entire goal is to heal, to reintegrate, and have people earn their way back into society, hopefully with new, healthier patterns.
You can see how this way of thinking is so much bigger than just architecture. This isn't just about designing a few cool buildings. It's really about understanding a kind of universal operating system for how all complex systems manage to stick around, whether they're made of bricks or cells or computer code.
And check this out, it's pretty fascinating. It shows how the same essential jobs need to get done at every single scale of life. A cell has a membrane to decide what comes in and out. A society has borders and laws. A cell uses DNA for memory. A society uses libraries and the internet. It's the same fundamental pattern, just showing up in different ways.
Which brings us right back around to the absolute core principle of this whole thing. And this isn't a moral judgment, it's not a political opinion, it's presented as a kind of thermodynamic reality. Systems that only take eventually run out of stuff to take, and they collapse. Systems that circulate, well, they can keep going pretty much indefinitely. Simple as that.
So, let's just leave it with this thought. We've seen how these deep principles can be built right into the geometry of a building. So if a home can become a living partner, and a prison can become an engine for healing, it kind of forces us to ask a question, doesn't it? What systems in our own lives, our work, our relationships, our communities, are running on extraction? And what would it take to start closing that loop?